What's up, guys? It's me, Floyd AM, aka Freebase Floyd, aka the other black dude, and today we are talking about one of my favorite shows on air right now, The Expanse. It was on the Sci-Fi Network. Now it's been moved over to Amazon Prime for your binging pleasure, but I will let you know there will be spoilers. We're covering season 3 today in this video, episodes 1 through 6. So if you're not caught up, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe anyway, and then get off this video and come back later when you are caught up. That's your one warning. I'm gonna ruin a lot of stuff for you about this show if you haven't watched it, and I really don't care. I gave you a warning. Get off the video, come back later. Do not get mad at me. I don't want to see nothing in the comments about there was no spoiler warning. Oh my god, why did he do this? That's your warning. Let's move on.
Welcome to The Expanse.
So if you are all caught up and you're still watching this video, then you know we have to start by talking about the crew of the Rossi and where they are now. When we left them in season 2's finale, they had just found out that Naomi Nagata, most beautiful woman on the show, Naomi Nagata had betrayed them, and she actually was supposed to send their sample of the proto-molecule into a star and destroy it. Instead, she hid it, and then it's discovered that she actually told Fred Johnson where it is, and now the OPA has a sample of the proto-molecule, and the OPA is considered a terrorist group, so for them to have what is basically a space nuke at this point is a big no-no. So the whole crew is kind of up in arms with Naomi. You have a situation where Holden destroys his coffee maker, and again, if you know the show, you know that coffee maker was very important to him, so for him to destroy that is a big issue. And then we see that Amos and Alex are actually talking about how they feel about the situation. Alex is a little bit on the fence about how to feel. He's not happy, but he's not mad. So he asks Amos, what do you think about what Naomi did? And Amos just looks at him and says,
she's not the person I thought she was.
And if you know Amos, then you know for him to respond that way about Naomi is a big deal. So the crew is just not a solid unit like they used to be, and it's about to get worse to a certain extent because Naomi recommends that they actually go to Fred Johnson and seek refuge with him so that they don't have to be on the run and they can be safe. Originally, the crew agrees to it. Holden's like, yeah, that's probably for the best. I don't agree with what you did, but I agree that's probably the safest place for us right now, so let's go ahead and do that. And then he does a complete 180, has a change of heart, and decides, you know what, we're going to do something right, and we lied to you this whole time. He's talking to the botanist, hey, we lied to you, we just used you to get what we wanted, and now it's time for us to do right by you. We're not sure that hybrid we killed at the end of season 2 was actually your daughter, so what we're going to do is take you to Ceres and see if we can find her. So that is where they're actually headed. Everybody votes on it, and Naomi's the only person that thinks it's a bad idea, but they decide to go anyway. And along the way, they actually pick up 2 more crew members in Avsarala and Bobby. How did they do that? Well, let's talk about where Avsarala and Bobby were. At the end of season 2, Aaron Wright had just set them up to be assassinated on a ship out in space. They were able to avoid the assassination, and we pick up with them still fighting some of the crew members on that ship. They're able to subdue everyone, get some help from one of the crew members, and Avsarala and Bobby are able to escape the ship and go running away as quickly as possible. That ship gets blown up, and everybody on board is dead except for Avsarala's bodyguard. He escapes with 1 crew member who he eventually kills in an effort to say everybody died and it was just me, so he can cover up the fact that Avsarala is still alive. Avsarala and Bobby go flying off into space as quickly as possible, but they're caught, not captured. Missiles are fired at them. They're able to outrun for a little while a couple of the missiles, and then they send out the best distress beacon they can, which the Rossi picks up. They decide to go ahead and check on who this is, and by doing so, they're able to shoot their own missiles out to destroy the ones that are about to blow up Avsarala and Bobby and save them, and then they surround their ship with missiles just in case any more come their way, and they're able to get Avsarala and Bobby to safety, which allows Avsarala to send off a message to Earth letting everyone know that Aaron Wright has planned all of this from the get-go. So back on Earth, Aaron Wright is working with the president to try and start a war between Mars and Earth. president doesn't want anything to do with it. He's kind of a pansy the whole time. He brings in his old speechwriter from back in the day, who's one of my favorite characters from Lost. Beautiful woman. Love her to death. Great actress. She comes in, does some speech writing. All of her words get jumbled up and misused. She's mad because it happens again. And I do like this character being from the LGBT community. It's a great way to provide it without forcing it onto us. And she's not your typical comic relief, which is how those characters are usually presented to us. She's a strong character who just happens to get duped, but then she fights back. She receives this message from Avsarala and decides to take it directly to the president. They're able to then catch Aaron Wright in all of his lies and let him know that this will no longer take place. He's arrested, but not before the president does call for an attack on Mars. They try to take out what's called Earthbusters that Mars has out in space, which is their first line or first attack line of defense or whatever. They're able to get 4 of them destroyed, but the 5th one, as they're firing at it, has a malfunction. Does not get destroyed before it fires off 1 missile, and in doing so kills millions of people back on Earth. So everybody's up in arms about that. Millions of people die. The president takes the blame for it, and it's actually because they had powered up the lasers they were using to destroy the planet busters, and he told them to hold off and not fire. So when they actually did fire them back up and decide to attack, one of them didn't power up correctly, and that's what led to all the deaths. So we've got Aaron Wright, who takes the fall like he's supposed to for the murder of the guy on the ship Avsarala and Bobby Warren, as well as the attempted assassination of Avsarala. We've got the president, who's now in all kinds of muddy water because of the way he handled the situation. His speechwriter actually continues into the second half of season 3, so we'll get to her in the next video. Like I said, this is going to be broken up into 2 parts because there's so much to cover. But if you jump back to Bobby, Avsarala, and the crew of the Rossi, since they are already headed to look for the botanist's daughter on Ceres, they also decide, well, Bobby does at least, that she is going to do her best to kill a hybrid if she runs into one. She has no quarrels about it. She's not hiding it from anyone. She even goes searching out for incendiary grenades or just rounds that she can use with her suit in an effort to burn this thing to a crisp, because the crew of the Rossi told her that's how they killed one. It was actually Alex who told her. So that's her plan when she gets there, and eventually they do arrive at Ceres, and there's a battle going on near the planet. The Agatha Christie, which was a ship that was supposed to be manned by a great captain, gets taken over by somebody who's corrupt and is working with Jules Pierre Mao in an effort to get the hybrids off of Ceres and distribute them as they see fit. So eventually what takes place is several dozen of these hybrids are fired off into space, and we actually get to see, via our time spent with Jules Pierre Mao, what the hybrids are like as they're transforming. So they've got like several kids there who they're all planning to turn into hybrids and work on them. And Jules Pierre Mao can't make up his mind on what he actually wants to do. He goes from saying, let's just shut it all down, let's stop this all together, to no, let's continue. And they have a kid whose name is Katao, who has been experimented on with the proto-molecule, and we're starting to see what effects it has on him. So he starts out with increased strength and agility. He's climbing up on pipes and stuff, and he keeps showing little May, which is the botanist's daughter. She's still alive. Great. He keeps showing her all his cool skills, and she's just really excited to see her dad, but they're obviously telling her can't take it him right now, but they won't tell her why. And then eventually the kid Katao gets really sick and loses all his skin, turns into the bluish pre-stages of a hybrid, and he's still able to kind of communicate, but he's talking in semi-riddles. He's talking about how the human form works, and they actually show a scene where he's completely disembodied one of the nurses and taking them all the way apart, and he's separating all their insides and stuff, and it's pretty graphic but pretty cool. It's similar to the scene where it shows the proto-molecule on Venus actually completely take apart a ship, which proto-molecule, the larger part of it that crashed into Venus, is still there, hasn't really done anything since it took apart the ship, and they're still orbiting Venus trying to figure out what it's going to do, but nothing's really changed there in the first half of the season. But back to Jules Pierre Mao. In an effort to escape, when he realizes that there are shots being fired and things are taking place in orbit outside of Ceres, he at that point decides to just fire off all the hybrids in an effort to escape. They're taking the kids with them as well, and then Holden and the crew actually get to them before this can take place. The doctor that was working with Jules Pierre Mao is kind of a douche, and he decides to kill the nurse that's helping them escape, and then turn around and tell everybody, I got her. She was trying to take the kids, but I saved them. And of course, it's Amos and the botanist that show up, and it's probably one of the funniest things that happens during the first half of the season, because the botanist is ready to kill this guy. He gets his daughter, he takes her to Amos, and he says, hey, I want you to meet my friend Amos. He's my best friend in the whole wide world. And you see the little look that Amos gives, like, I have a friend. And he's all shocked. So it was pretty cool. Again, Amos is becoming more human the more he hangs out with the botanist. The botanist is becoming more cold and callous as he hangs out with Amos. So that's what takes place between those two. But as that happens, you actually notice that the botanist is pretty serious about killing this doctor for everything that they've done to his daughter and not allowing her to be around him and keeping her from his child. So he's actually in a process where he's about to shoot the doctor, and then Amos walks up and says, that's not you, man. That's not you. Takes the gun from him, sends him back to his daughter, and then the doctor's like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Amos turns around and he's like, but it is me. And then he shoots the dude, which was awesome. It just reestablishes that character as the most badass character on TV as far as the shows that I watch. He's always ready to get into whatever kind of a squabble he needs to for his friends and those close to him. And if you don't have an Amos in your crew, then you're doing something wrong. So after Jules Pierre Mao fires off all of the hybrids into space, they try to shoot down as many as they can, and then the crew of the Rossi decides, you know what, the only way to fix this is by contacting who else? Fred Johnson. He has those missiles that we gave him back in like season 1 that disappeared, and he'll definitely want to help out because it'll give the Belt and the OPA leverage between Earth and Mars, showing that they are ready to sit at the big table with the big boys, and they're not just some kind of grunt workers who are out here collecting ice like we see in early season 1, season 2. So as episode 6 ends, we actually see that all of the hybrids that are shot off into space are destroyed as far as we know. He was able to get all of them. With that, Bobby does get her run-in with a hybrid. Catal is set free by the doctor and Jules Pierre Mao as they're trying to escape. So it goes running off, and she chases it down, and it chases her, and there's this back and forth cat and mouse thing. And finally, it culminates with them falling from a very high distance, and she's in her suit. They hit the ground. She's kind of out. It's out for a second, and she wakes up, and it's on top of her, and she's not sure if it's going to try and kill her or what it's going to do. And it basically just examines her and looks her up and down, trying to figure out what's going on here. And then she takes that opportunity to shoot it all up in the back of its neck. Like, all of this right here is just gone when she's done. The hybrid is completely done for, and she gets up and rejoins the crew. And we basically end with Avzarala explaining what has actually taken place and why this war got started in the first place. It's a pretty nice beginning to the season, especially for what comes in the second half of the season. Not a whole lot of Venus action with the proto-molecule. It's more of a political drama that takes place in the first 6 episodes. But I really enjoyed it. A lot of character building. You get to see the crew of the Rossi disconnected at the end of the season, or at the end of episode 6. As I mentioned before, the proto-molecule is still on Venus. But as the I guess mid-season is coming to an end, as episode 6 is coming to an end, it actually shows that the proto-molecule is leaving Venus and heading out into space. So we get this big orb of just proto-molecule and machinery. It looks like it just absorbed all of the metal it could out of Venus, I guess, and then it goes out into space, and what it actually does is just makes a big ring right there in space. And that's pretty much the way it ends. The proto-molecule has now left Mars, and it's just, left Venus, and it's just out in space, floating around as a big ring, and nobody really knows what to do with it. And that's pretty much where we pick up for season 7. So, or season 7. Oh my God, goodness. That's where we pick up for episode 7. We now have the proto molecule out in space. It's just a huge ring. Could be a weapon. Nobody's really sure what it is. And that's kind of where we end. And then it picks back up in episode 7 with the ring still being there and them going out to take a look at it. So we will cover that in the next video. But again, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll come and find you. Nah, I'm playing. I ain't got time to be looking for y'all, man. What you think?